Hey, I'm Joy, daughter Marine, chain smoking truth teller, and your host of Pandora's Box. Around here, we curse like sailors, cry like toddlers, and heal like fucking warriors. This is your safe space to say the weird thing because life's not G rated. I've lived through divorce, addiction, grief, caregiving, and I'm still here, and so are you. Whether you're driving home, hiding in the bathroom from your kids, or just trying to feel anything, you're not alone. Open the box. Let the truth out and let's sail through this shit together. Today is a special day for me. It is the Marine Corps' 250th year. As you know or may not know, today marks the onset of the Marines. It was established in November 10th, 1775. They had a motto, Semper Fidelis, meaning always faithful. Their core values were honor, courage, and commitment. And yes, I'm looking at notes because this means a lot to me. As all of you know by now, in my intro, I talk about being a daughter Marine. And I'm a very fucking proud daughter of Marine. This episode is dedicated to all the Marines out there, both in the past, the present, and in the future. My dad was one of those always faithful. And I had to do some notes because I've started this podcast 5 times, and about 10 minutes through, tears started rolling down my face, and because of oh, okay, I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna do it. Forgive me if I get really emotional. I have to wipe away tears because that is just how much my dad and his service has meant to me. I gotta wipe away some tears. My apologies. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about coffee before we get into this. So I'm drinking peppermint coffee. Yes, I have a lot of coffee mugs. You've already seen this one. My apologies. I wasn't really planning the coffee mug scenario. So my dad enlisted in the United States Marine Corps when he was 17 years old during um, the Vietnam conflict, as they say. And he really did not talk to us, my brother and I, about what he did when he was in Vietnam. All we know is he was a tunnel rat. And that's pretty much all he would really say about it. One time we were watching, oh gosh, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Oh my gosh, Platoon. And after we watched that movie together as a family, he did say that's one of the closest movies that he's ever seen. That's pretty close to what happened in Vietnam. But this is not about Vietnam or being a tunnel rat. This is solely about being a Marine and honoring my late father and honoring all of the Marines, past, present, and future. He taught us so many different, gosh, things. That's the only word I can really say right now because of how he took the Marine Corps dedication, resilience, loyalty, and strength to his final days on this world, this planet, however you want to put it. And one thing that he taught us without even, probably even knowing, is the core values that he was instilled with, and that is honor, courage, and commitment. Now, let's break it down. Honor. That is one thing that man had in spades. His word was his bond. Period. He said it, he did it. Regardless if he wanted to do it or not, he did it. And the courage that he faced every day of his life, both when he was active and then when he was just David. My dad's name was David Randall King. He was a wonderful man. He was born on March 21st, 1951, and he died December 26th, 2009. On my person, um, I don't have him with me, but I carry his dog tags on my keychain every day of my life so I can remember not only him, but why what he did was so important, and that's serving this country. The things that he taught us when we were children, oh my gosh. I can remember one time, oh Lord, we lived in Fort Worth, Texas, and we lived near the Tandy Center. And if you've ever been to downtown Fort Worth back in the 80s when I was a child, it was a really cool place to live. And we lived very close to the Tandy Center. I don't know what it's called now because I haven't been back since we moved there. And I had a banana seat bike. And my dad was 5'11", muscular built, muscles on his arms, his abs. I mean, this guy, he looked like he was still active military, even though he has been out of the Corps for many years at this point. And I could remember he came home from work one day and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was crying. And I'm like, "Someone stole my bicycle." And he was like, "Do you know who did it?" And I said, "Yeah, the boy down the street." He he always wore his t-shirt and he always had cigarettes rolled up like the 1950s and his pack was on his arm and he was very big and well, he was cocky too, let's be honest. And he's like, "All right, let's go get your fucking bike." Next thing I know, here goes my dad. Just got off of work. He was a construction worker, and that's the reason why to this day I have a small obsession with anyone that does anything with their hands. If you work with your hands every day, another thank you. And that's the reason why I have this little thing with tool belts. But that's neither here nor there. So we're walking down the street. He's going way too fast. My little legs aren't keeping up, and we get to this house. I remember there was several concrete stairs onto the person's porch. My dad just beats on the door. Beats on the door. This little kid opens the door and says, "Your dad home?" And he's like, "Yeah." Dad walks up and he says, "Your son stole my daughter's fucking bicycle and I'm here to claim it." They exchange words. I can't remember the complete dialogue because it's been quite a few years, like 40. Next thing I know, the dad says, "Why'd you steal her bike?" And he's like, says something I can't remember. And all I remember was my father, David, carrying a Tuffy banana seat bike, yellow, on his shoulder, like most people would carry a boom box. And he literally said to me, I'll never forget this. He said, "That guy's lucky that he gave me the bike or I would have cleaned his clock." Now, I don't condone violence. I don't think anyone should go punch someone for someone stealing someone's box, but that's the kind of man he was. He had honor. And the courage part, he really didn't have courage in that piece. That's because that's just who he was. What what he always lived by was what is right, what is wrong is wrong. Now that's just a small snippet of what it looked like to grow up with a Marine. Our dad, oh God, he was a character. When he wanted to prove a point to my brother or I, mostly around fitness, because let's face it, we've already discussed my hanging skin, but that's not this type of podcast today. This is my story on my dad and my love affair with the United States Marine Corps. So Dave and I, that's my brother, we would sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, we're faster than you and we're young and we're blah 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 blah." What would that man do? He would go down and do push-ups. The kind you see on TV where they push up, clap their hands, push up, clap their hands. And he would do that for like 15 to 20. And then he'd be like, "Oh, so you want some more? Do you guys think you're badass now?" And we're just like, "Holy shit, he's going to whip the shit out of us." And he could. He could. That is just the type of guy he is, or he was. Then he got into later in life where he still had that same grit and he still had that same commitment. A lot of people don't understand myself. My brother and I are very much alike when it comes to the way that we operate. And it wasn't until recently when I started doing this podcast and I started going down memory lane and bringing everyone into who I am and what I've experienced in my life and what I'm currently doing to make myself a better me. And now I realize that my dad, even though he may or may not know it, he was like our drill sergeant. And now I realize when he always talked about courage, honor, loyalty, strength, commitment, he was making us a human that he could be proud of, just like he was to be a Marine. I know those of you that know me are like, holy shit, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. I once made a comment on one of my pods talking about how loyalty means more to me than love. You can say you love me every fucking day, but loyalty means more to me than love. And that is how our dad raised us, because that is all he knew. Now, when he talked about the Marine Corps, he talked about the Corps. Oh, God darn it. I wish he was here because you guys would get to see the cool guy that we got to call our dad. And when he would talk about the Corps, it was more of a, I always thought it to be like a guys where, they just hung out in tents and they played with their guns. And no, that wasn't it. That was a part of it. But he talked about the friendships, the loyalty, and ultimately the love of the United States Marine Corps. I have another family member who is alive. Thank you. His name is Randy, and I hope you don't get mad at me, Randy. But he too is a Marine, and he has that same characteristics that my dad did and shares the same values of the States Marine Corps. Now, when my dad got sick, my dad actually was an alcoholic. And the 7 days before he died, I called my aunt. We were in the hospital. We were at Clarkson Tower, 5th floor. And someday I'll talk about Clarkson Tower, 5th floor, but not today. We just got the news from the doctor who I referred to as Doogie Howser. He looked like Doogie Howser. I think he was probably in his 30s too. I don't know. And they said that there's nothing more we could do for you, David. And basically, they sent him home to pass. And I remember just crying emphatically and wailing, actually. And I called my aunt and I said, "Is there any way that Uncle Randy could call my dad and do some sort of drill sergeant to make him find the grit to keep going?" And my aunt was like, "He could, but I don't think that's going to do anything, Joy." And I always thought that there's something we could have done and that maybe a drill sergeant could have made him go on to the very next day and the next day and the next day. In reality, no, it was just his time. And I know that now. It took me way too many years to verbalize that. Even on his deathbed, December 26, 2009, my friend's daughter actually um, en- enlisted, and she too was a Marine, and she was at boot camp. And it just so happened she was at Paris Island when my dad did his boot camp many years prior. And she says to me, "Hey, my daughter is at Paris Island. Would you like something for your dad?" This is obviously years before he passed. And I said, "Yes, I would." I said, "I would like for you to buy him a hat. I'll pay you back." She's like, "What would you like?" And then she was telling me different descriptions. And then she came to this, what he said very often in his life. And the hat simply said, "Once a Marine, always a Marine." So fast forward to that fateful day, December 26, 2009. We were scrambling like maniacs, really. And I said to my brother and my mom, I said, "We need to get our dad's Vietnam jacket and we need to get that hat." And so we did. When my dad took his last breath, he took it as a Marine with honor, courage, and ultimately commitment. And as those words come out of my mouth and the loyalty that I feel for all the service men and women out there, I would not be here today doing this podcast or having the rights that I have if it wasn't for the Marines, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, U.S. Coast Guard. Even though this is about the 250th year of the Marines, but all of you, tomorrow is Veterans Day, and I want to say thank you to the past veterans, the current veterans. Thank you. My dad lived the credo, and he ultimately shared it with my brother and I. And sometimes people may not understand me, but I hope all of you know this. I am a daughter of a Marine, and I am fucking proud of that. Thank you. Let me itch my nose. I apologize. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just lace up, light up, and keep moving. The journey's rough, the waves are high, but this sailor's got your back. Say the weird thing. Say it fucking loud. Come back this week. This is Pandora's Box, and I'm just a fucking proud Marine daughter whose name is fucking Joy.